And we're all focused on growing, adapting, and thriving in this global market space. So throughout the morning, we'll be diving into some pretty big topics. Navigating international markets, building business resilience, and covering new opportunities across the globe. And we're pretty fortunate as well to have insights from industry leaders representing companies such as Amazon, AstraZeneca, Mountainair Farms, and of course others that are here with us today. I do want to quickly thank our partner, Export Delaware, Beth, Pomper. Thank you so much for your leadership. We truly appreciate your support. And Emma Potler, I think she's here somewhere. There she is. Thank you, Emma. We'd also like to take a moment to recognize a few people, a few special people in the room. Of course, our chamber board members who are here with us today, and Pam Scott, our board chair. If you're in the room, please just raise your hand and wave that you're here and that you do exist. Thank you so much. And of course, our amazing speakers who will be sharing their expertise and their real-world experience with us throughout the morning. A warm welcome to the Governor Meyer and Lieutenant Governor Evans-Gay. Thank you so much. If you both could please stand and just wave to the audience. Thank you so much. Yeah, I make those two stand. And of course, our elected officials, thank you for your continued support for Delaware's business community across Newcastle County and of course across our state. Our promotional sponsors, including Delaware Manufacturing, Extension Partnership, DMAP, and of course the Delaware Division of Small Business. We are so grateful for your partnership, not only now and for today's event, but throughout the year. You are tremendous partners for us here at the Chamber. And a special shout out, of course, to our President's Circle members who are in the building today and who are not, but thank you so much for your ongoing support of the Chamber and the initiatives that we have throughout the year, so thank you so much. And of course, our Newcastle County Chamber staff, I can't do what we can't do, but I can't do my job without the amazing team that I have and all the work that they do behind the scenes. I especially want to thank Elise Bordolato and Emma Audrin from the Economic Development team. Thank you so much, ladies, for helping making this event possible. And of course, Danielle Morabito and Jordan Spencer from our events team. Thank you so much. Again, today is about connection, collaboration, and innovation. We have a great lineup ahead, and I hope you walk away with some fresh insights, new ideas, and valuable connections for Newcastle County and for the state of Delaware. So let's make it a great morning and a great day, and thank you all for being here. Now I'm going to turn it over to Beth Pomper. Thank you.
Thank you, Yvonne. Thank you, everyone, for coming this morning. We look forward to a great day and an interactive program. First, it gives me great pleasure to introduce our governor, Matt Meyer. As many of you know, Governor Meyer is a former public school math teacher and a small business owner. He served as Newcastle County Executive from 2017 through January 2025. As the leader of Delaware's largest local government, Governor Meyer proved that government can still work for the people, delivering real results for real people and making real progress for Delaware's working families. At Export Delaware, we love to hear that because our entire team, both Emma and I, and our global team around the world is comprised of private sector experts driving real export sales results for our Delaware businesses. What excited me the most about Governor Meyer is that Governor Meyer is an exporter. And I believe we probably have the only governor in the country that speaks fluent Swahili. I'm probably not wrong about that, right? Our Export Delaware team, we had the pleasure of going to Tanzania on one of our business trips, and Iwona, who's here today, one of our speakers, she accompanied me on that trip. Governor Meyer lived in Nairobi, Kenya, where he created Eco Sandals, a recycled footwear company that sold environmentally friendly footwear to customers in 17 countries on 5 continents. So how great is it for us that we have a real-life exporter who gets it? So thank you. We really look forward to hearing your perspectives today, Governor, on exporting. One of the core components of his campaign was economic development, specifically championing small businesses to help grow our Delaware economy. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce Governor Matt Meyer.
Together, and it's exciting that both of us valued it so much in a very, very busy time that we both chosen to be here. Also, where's Yvonne, Deadwyler? Let's give it up for Yvonne. I think most of you know, many of you are part of the leadership team, but the Newcastle County Chamber is really the preeminent small business chamber in our state, in the region, and I'd even say the country. And we're fortunate to have Yvonne's very creative leadership, and I think this today is part of that, and we really appreciate it. And to Pam and the folks at Export Delaware, thanks for doing what you do every single day. I'm about to explain why I decided to come and why I think what you're doing is so important. And I also have to shout out my friend Patty Cannon in the front row. I think it was 14 years ago. We went to a bio conference up in Boston together to espouse many of the things we're talking about today. And those were long days in a big convention hall just trying to talk about the tremendous opportunity that is Delaware. Amazon, Mount Air Farms, AstraZeneca, and others who are speaking today and have chosen to support this. Thank you so much. I want to say 3 very quick things. The first is that each of you, Delawareans, can truly change the world through things that you hear today. Each of you Delawareans can truly change the world by things that you hear today. I know that, as Pam highlighted, from personal experience. I was a 20-year-old kid. I grew up in Delaware. I ended up, because I had a 5th grade teacher who told me the tallest mountain in Africa was on the equator, and it was snow-capped, called Kilimanjaro, right in the middle of Kenya. I wanted to go to Kenya, like all through middle and high school. And so the first chance I got in college, I got on a plane and went to Kenya. And just as we were landing in Nairobi, I was sitting next to a Tanzanian guy who asked me why I was going to Kenya, and I told him about the snow-capped mountain. He said, "That's good, but it's in Tanzania." So I actually went to the wrong country. But I was there. And what I was immediately, this is back 30 years ago, over 30 years ago, I was immediately overwhelmed, to be honest, with that abject poverty. I'd never seen anything like it in my life. When it rained hard, people's homes would wash away. There were people struggling to get torn and tattered just to get the basics. And the day after I visited this shantytown neighborhood, this complete abject poor neighborhood with no sanitary sewage, no running water, very little electricity. The day after that, the group of American students I was with stopped on the side of the road where a guy was selling used tire sandals. He literally was just cutting tires, measuring feet, and we were paying $5-10 for his sandals. And it occurred to me and a friend, a Kenyan friend, wait a second, what if we do this like at scale? What if we go to one of these neighborhoods and just get young adults together and just say, let's train them how to make these things, and let's do it. And so I ended up coming back to college in the US, writing a grant proposal. I got $10,000 to go and do this. And so I went to Kenya and I spent a year in Kenya with 2 or 3 people making used tire sandals and having no real avenue to sell them. I didn't know much. I was 23 at the time. And we were doing anything we could to develop sales channels. I didn't know anything about business. Shortly after that, something called the internet happened. And it came to Kenya. And next thing I knew, we had something called an e-commerce website, the first e-commerce website in the entire country of Kenya. And we were selling sandals all over the world. Our 2 or 3 person operation turned into a 25-person operation. Suddenly, people who were used to living in a neighborhood where people made about the equivalent of 50 cents a day, were selling sandals for $30 and $40, 2-3 pairs a day, and getting all the money through an ATM card. And you can imagine the excitement and opportunities that created, some challenges as well. The young adults I work with often would get shaken down by local police just because they take the money and they go buy nice clothes. It's one of the first things they buy, and the police would assume that they stole it. So the first lesson is there's tremendous opportunity in what you hear today to change the world. I think each of you can think of ways that we can take that lesson, taking something, just used tires on the side of the road, turning them into a product for 30 or 40 bucks that we can sell around the world. There are things we can do in Delaware that are corollaries to that. There are things we can do in Delaware at much greater scale that can provide tremendous prosperity to communities across our state. That's the first thing. The second thing, related, is how fortunate a time it is that we live in. How fortunate a time is that we live in. When I was in college and we started to imagine this business, we had no idea how we could sell a pair of sandals made in the Korogocho neighborhood of Nairobi, Kenya, to someone in West Hollywood in LA. It was like no vehicle. To do that, we'd have to get on the phone. The phone call would cost $40. Talking to someone on the other side of the world. We would say, "What's up?" Now we say, "What's that?" That's it, right? And there was no vehicle to do that. Now commerce is so quick and so easy. The friction, the barriers to accessing markets, they're not totally gone. And with this president, in some ways, some of the barriers are being erected once again. But there are ways using technology for us to make connections and network without even physically going to places like never before. Appreciate that and understand how we as Delaware can use that as a competitive advantage. That's the second thing. The last thing I just want to say is how hard it actually is. How hard it actually is. These amazing technologies we have, everybody or nearly everybody has. It's as Pam knows at Export Delaware, and Patty in our Division of Small Business, there's a robust competition, a vibrant competition among states and among countries. As Thomas L. Friedman coined years and years ago, the world is now flat. Everybody is competing with everyone. If you develop a great pair of sandals in Kenya, you are now competing with people in Thailand and in Indiana who may have other competing products. We're all competing for a global market, which means that we only win if we hustle a little bit more and if we come together in events like this to put our heads together, to bring some of the smartest minds around the country to figure out how we can truly win. So thank you so much for taking the time today to come together at the first annual, at the first Export Delaware Summit. And just know you have the strongest partner in the Lieutenant Governor and myself, because the value this can create for Delaware communities across our state in various industries can have a life-changing impact for all of us for a long, long time. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you so much. Next, it gives me great pleasure to introduce and invite our wonderful Lieutenant Governor, Kyle Evans Gay. Lieutenant Governor Gay is a mom. Very important, us moms have to stick together. The most important job, I think. An advocate, an attorney, a former state senator, and our lieutenant governor here in Delaware. She ran for public office to advocate and fight for equality and prosperity for all. She's an attorney, and she has her law degree from Boston University. She's worked in private practice representing clients in Delaware's business courts and has volunteered with several Delaware nonprofits. Her professional life has been rooted in advocacy for equity and justice, and she's been up close and she's seen the direct impact state policies and legislation has on communities across our region. So thank you so very much for coming, and Lieutenant Governor.
I'm so pleased to be here with you this morning. I am going to use the podium because I'm sure Yvonne will attest, never have I met a podium so well suited to my honey. I would like to take this with me when I go. This is fantastic. No, it's wonderful to be here with our governor. It's wild to think about, but we are both in less than 100 days in, and just all the energy, enthusiasm, and innovation that has come in our short time in office so far, and I'm just incredibly excited for what the opportunities are as far as governance, and then the opportunities are to collaborate with so many of you as well. I would love to thank especially Export Delaware, and Beth, thank you for being here, and to thank Yvonne and her team for bringing us together. It is an absolute pleasure to be able to talk about an important topic like getting access to global markets for our local Delawareans. And I think we're here today, it's important to know, because of great work and investment that's already been done on behalf of Delawareans. And we hope to continue, that you will continue to be empowered to reach outside our state and access those global markets. I think the first state is uniquely equipped to broaden our influence globally, because here in Delaware, we foster an exchange of ideas. And as a result, and I know I'm biased, I think Delaware is the place for innovation and entrepreneurship. I did not start a business in Africa, but I did study global relations before getting my law degree. And I can remember in particular one of my professors who really opened my eyes to the depth of interconnectedness in our global communities. And in our connected world, it is imperative that Delaware businesses have the tools and the knowledge to successfully navigate those international markets. Because when we celebrate connection and pair it with innovation and trade, we have the power to take this and other local economies to new heights. That's why I'm so glad to see many Delawareans here this morning, our small businesses who are present today. This summit will focus on what is possible for Delaware's small businesses at a global scale. And as someone who loves to talk about what's possible here in Delaware, I am excited to highlight how we in Delaware are leading the way with strategic partnerships between the private and the public sectors. Part of the success of that collaboration has been investment and support for minority-owned and women-owned businesses, and I know we have many here today. Delaware's small businesses are diverse, and today's panelists reflect the range of products and services that Delaware's business community has to offer. In many ways, our small state is punching above its weight in the global economy. And we know exporting is good for business. Businesses that export are more stable, they grow faster, they create more jobs, and they're more profitable than businesses who do not export. In particular, many of Delaware's small businesses, especially our women-owned and minority-owned businesses, are well-positioned to take part of this success. Minority-owned businesses are 2 times more likely to export than non-minority-owned businesses. And according to the Global Innovation Forum, women-owned businesses who export have an average of 14.3 million more in receipts than those who do not. Companies around the world are seeking to work with different partners. And while things may feel uncertain, I might say chaotic at the national level, here at home and across the world, there is still a commitment to diversity. That's why Export Delaware and the state are committed to supporting women-owned and minority-owned businesses as they look to engage in the global marketplace. Over the program history, 59% of Export Delaware's participants have been minority-owned businesses. And as a result of their export activity, these companies have prospered, they've grown their export activity, they've grown and created new jobs here in the first state. Yvonne Evans, you'll hear from later, no relation, is going to share more about her story, and she's a great example of that success. And I want to thank Beth for the work with Export Delaware, bringing your experience as a global supplier diversity director to the state, and starting the first global supplier diversity initiative for any state through Export Delaware. It's fantastic work. So at the end of the day, exporting is a proven growth strategy. You don't have to be a big company to do it. Even small enterprises and our women-owned and minority-owned businesses are thriving in the global marketplace. But, as we say, there's always an opportunity for more. And so I encourage you to take back with you everything that you have learned today, to think about ways that you can enhance your organization and continue to be part of the successes here in Delaware. Thank you so much again to Export Delaware and, of course, to our chamber. It's been a pleasure to be with you, and I hope to be a part of your continued success in the global marketplace.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. Could we get a little light? Little light would be great. If not, that's great. Thank you. If not, wonderful. Thank you. It gives me great pleasure to introduce one of our own. You can hear it from me all day long, but I think it's really best if you hear it from someone that sits in your shoes. One of our finest exporters and award-winning exporters in the state. Gives me great pleasure to introduce you to Yvonne Evans, who is the CEO and founder of Aqua Science, a Newark-based business. Iwona has almost 20 years experience in managing finance departments in the biotech industry in both private and public companies. During the time, she gained valuable perspective in managing a biotech organization. Iwona is a native of Poland, and she was educated here in Delaware. She holds a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration with a concentration in international business and a Master's of MBA from Goldie Beacom College, and another MBA, a second one, held in new venture creation from UD, where she met her husband. So we stole her. So she's an import, okay? Iwona began working with Export Delaware and I in 2020. She launched her company during COVID, the pandemic. And she has really been a true example of success. She's traveled around the world on many of our international business trips, and I believe now you're in 20 or 21 countries in a short period of time. So I welcome, thank you, and we look forward to hearing about your story and your success. Iwona.
Good morning, everyone. It is a pleasure and honor to be here. And I would like to thank Export Delaware and the Newcastle Chamber of Commerce, and Beth in particular, for giving me this opportunity to share the Aqua Science story, the success story. And as Beth mentioned, I was born and I grew up in Poland. And I came to the United States in year 2000 at age 22. Now everybody knows my age. And when I came here, I barely spoke English. And I spent the first year here studying English on my own. And then in 2001, I enrolled in Deltech to take English as a second language classes. By 2007, I earned the Bachelor of Science from Goldie Beacom College and MBA from the University of Delaware. And the next few years, I spent working for biotech companies and earned my second master's degree. At the end of 2019, my current team and I, we all work for a biotech company, and that was on the verge of collapse. We were facing with difficult decisions. When most people would work on updating their Indeed resumes, the large portion of that company and I took a chance to start a new venture. Little did we know what was awaiting us. Aqua Science was incorporated in February of 2020, yes, right at the beginning of the pandemic. It was an exciting but also scary time for us. With the world's economy slowing down and funding for new companies basically non-existent, we had to find new ways to fund our company because we decided that going back wasn't an option, only to keep pushing forward. So we put an incredible effort in R&D, and by September of 2020, we had our first product to the market, our BioLite reagents that are used for test toxicity in water and soil. After developing the highest quality of the bioluminescent bacteria reagents in the world, we started gaining traction for our product in several countries, especially in Europe. We quickly realized that in order for us to expand our customer base, we needed to develop also an instrument that could work together with our reagents. So in May of 2021, we started to developing the BioLite Toxi Luminometer. It's an instrument that is used to test for toxicity in water and soil. During the pandemic, funding for startups was pretty much impossible, so we tried every avenue possible to fund our development project. The Edge Grant was one of the opportunities the state of Delaware offered. We entered the competition, and we were one of the winners in 2021. And this was a huge help for us. So we continue to work on equipment development, and in January of 2022, we hired a young freelance programmer to develop our user interface for the equipment. The programmer, who is an incredible young man and extremely talented, was based in Kiev, Ukraine. A month later, the war in Ukraine started. It was another scary time for our company. But he worked on our programming through 3 evacuations, and at times, we didn't hear from him for days because he was in bomb shelters. I still remember Zoom calls with him and seeing rockets exploding behind in the background. And we still continue working with him, and we could never express our gratitude to this brave young man. He became like family to us. In September of 2023, we entered BioLite Toxi into an EPA sensor challenge. EPA and several other US government agencies were looking for a solution to be used to test for acute chemical toxicity in water. I'm happy to say that in June of 2024, BioLite was announced the winner of the EPA challenge. Thank you. As we work on selling reagents and developing equipment, we also knew that we had to work on expanding our market internationally. From the beginning of the company, I spent endless hours networking. While most of the doors were quickly closing, one never did. In spring of 21, I was introduced to Beth and Export Delaware. And Beth saw potential in Aqua Science in our products and gave us a chance. Over the past few years, we've been on many trade missions, at least 12 different countries, and as of now, we have 21 distributors in 28 countries. And many of them are as a result of the trade missions. There are 8 countries around the world that have legislation written that require testing for toxicity in water using our technology. As a result of the trade mission, bringing awareness and the importance of testing for water for toxicity, there are several new countries that are working on their own legislation, and we see it as a huge success for us. And we also Our great hope is that one day we'll work with US EPA on legislating this technology in our country as well. We at Aquascience have a great passion for this technology because the toxicity analysis is the only test that shows the effect of chemicals and other toxins on living organisms, including humans. Our experience with Export Delaware has been absolutely amazing. As a startup with limited funding, it would be virtually impossible for us to find a quality distributors around the world that we did. The meetings that we had during the trade wishes have been excellent. All the companies that we met with were vetted by the local teams that Export Delaware works with. We had meetings with the ministers of water, water authorities, and excellent possible distributors in all the countries that we visited, which would never be possible if it wasn't for Export Delaware. The former Secretary Jeff Bullock joined us on several of those trade missions, and he advocated not only for Aquascience, but also for the other companies that participated in those trade missions. And to me, it means a lot in knowing that people in our local government care and help us to grow companies like mine. I wanted to give a specific example. We went on a trade mission to Mexico in 2022. At that time, Mexico just passed a legislation requiring to use our technology to test for toxicity in wastewater. Export Delaware helped us to organize a big event where we had many potential customers attending to learn about our technology. And one of those participants was Conagua, the Mexican Water Authority. Conagua not only attended the event, but we also had several private meetings with them. We ended up working with Conagua on validating their Mexican norm that is programmed into our user interface. BioLite Tox is the only luminometer in the world that has Mexican norm built into its UI. For a small and very young company like us, it would be very difficult, if not impossible, to secure meetings, for example, with Conagua. It was possible for us because of the quality and experience of the local team in Mexico that Beth has been working with for many years. And of course, Secretary Bullock speaking at our event helped too. Working with Export Delaware wasn't only about trade missions. It was much more than that. Beth came from a private sector where she exported products all over the world for over 30 years. She has incredible experience, which she shared with all of us. She was available whenever we needed her, days, nights, weekends. It didn't matter, she was there. Aquascience is a 5-year-old biotech company. In this industry, you usually don't even have revenue in the first 5 years. We not only have had revenue from year one, but we have been doubling it year after year. We know that it wouldn't be possible without the support we receive from Export Delaware. And for that, I would like to thank everyone who helped to make it possible. Thank you. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Yvonne. Next, could I invite our panelists to come and grab a seat? Mark, you dropped your phone. Okay, great. Perfect. Please, anywhere, and then I'll join you there as well. And we'd like to make this interactive, so we'll start, with the panel and our questions, and then afterwards we will we'll go into a Q&A. Okay, and we need Andy. Okay, so let me introduce our 3 panelists that are here, and as soon as Andy joins us, I'll introduce Andy. Well, how lucky are all of us today to have this group of experts to share their knowledge and experience with all of us. During this hectic time, I came up with this idea several months ago. Andy, please take a seat wherever you like. And, one of the things, that's great. One of the things I have to do in my role at Export Delaware is I'm tasked with crafting a strategic plan every year for the state to come up with the best countries that have the best opportunities to buy the products and services that you all manufacture. And with so many countries in the world, where do we start? Given this hectic time, I thought it would be great for us to have a conversation and learn from the best of the best. And that's who we have here today. Up to my right, we have Andy Wood. Andy Wood is Sales Director for Solar Pelvic Therapy. Solar Pelvic Therapy is a division of Newark-based B&W Tech Medical. Andy has done this for many, many years and has successfully launched several companies internationally, setting up distribution systems in, my goodness, over 50 countries? Well over 50. Oh, I don't know. Previously, Andy served in various senior-level roles for several medical device manufacturers, including 15 years at Lightcure, Newcastle-based manufacturer of medical lasers. Andy has long participated in Export Delaware programming, and I have personally enjoyed working with him for years. So thank you, Andy. Mm-hmm. And to Andy's right, we have Mark Holder. Mark is Executive Director of Global Planning Excellence for AstraZeneca. Mark is a certified supply chain professional with more than 30 years of experience focused on optimizing processes, managing people, and utilizing technology to deliver the most efficient and effective supply chain outcomes possible. He spent the past 20-plus years in supply chain management in the pharma industry. He has over 30 years in leadership positions at various organizational levels, with increasing levels of responsibility. And obviously, AstraZeneca is no stranger and is a key partner in our thriving ecosystem. So, Mark, thank you for coming today and sharing your expertise. And next to Mark, we have Mark Carver, who is head of Global Business Development for Amazon Global. I want to share with you that Mark was gracious enough to fly in to meet all of you from Seattle for less than 24 hours to share his expertise. So, Mark, thank you for coming so far to share your expertise and be with us today. We're very grateful. Mark has over 15 years of senior leadership experience in global fashion, luxury, and premium consumer products. He's currently the head of global business development at Amazon, where he leads the strategic, brand relations, and business development teams for all international marketplaces and product families. His personal mission is to build powerful brands, capture market share, and achieve fast, sustainable growth for Amazon and its selling partners by fostering strong collaborative and cross-functional relationships within the organization and with outside strategic partners. Amazon does a lot to empower small businesses here in Delaware. In fact, Delaware's ranked second out of the top states with the largest percentage of growth of independent sellers. In addition, Delaware is second out of all 50 states for the most independent sellers per capita in Amazon's online stores. So thank you. Thank you, Mark. And to Mark's right, gives me great pleasure to introduce Oleg Kovalev, Director of Export Sales for Meyer Farms. Oleg has worked for 28 years in the chicken export business, 19 years with Meyer. Prior to that, 9 years with Allen Family Foods, another Delaware poultry company, another exporter. His team exports Meyer chickens to more than 60 countries around the world. He's a member of the executive committee and the board of directors of USAPEC, the U.S. Poultry and Egg Export Council. Thank you, Oleg. Thank you for coming and for your leadership. So I'll join the panel and we'll begin our program. Can everybody hear me? Yes. Okay, great. Then I don't have to use the microphone. As I mentioned, given the current international climate, businesses really need guidance on how to navigate their export strategy to both retain your current international sales and then look to grow them. So what's next, right? Mark C., let me start with you. Amazon needs to be ahead of virtually everyone else in the world when it comes to global strategic planning. You need to staff your fulfillment centers and have global logistics needs like no other company in the world. Given the ever-changing global landscape, would you be able to share with us what you feel are the best performing country areas for your business in both mature and emerging markets, for any kind of company here that may be interested in selling their products on Amazon?
Yeah, sure. First of all, 60%, actually just a little bit more than 60% of all products sold on Amazon are from small and medium-sized businesses. So, Amazon really is empowering small and medium-sized businesses to sell, not just on Amazon.com, but in all of our stores around the world. By stores, we call our e-commerce sites online stores. We have 22 online stores. We just launched Ireland last week, as a matter of fact. So Ireland now has its own Amazon e-commerce site. And through this global network of e-commerce stores that we have, sellers on Amazon can reach over 300 million customers globally, 200 million of which are paid, which I'm sure a lot of people in here are also paid Prime members who spend exponentially more annually than just your average Amazon shopper. So to answer your question, really anywhere that Amazon is an opportunity for sellers to reach global customers. We have a network of global logistics centers, 175 of those around the world, that allow you to ship your products to these fulfillment centers and then reach your end consumer anywhere in the world. Right now, that reaches about 180 countries. We have stores in the UK, across the EU, in Australia and Japan. Let's see where else. We had South Africa we launched last year as well, so that's our first store in the African continent. So really, anywhere Amazon is an opportunity. And I'll highlight two specific regions just to give you an example. Let's take the EU, for instance. And by 2029, it's projected that there will be 500 million active e-commerce shoppers within the UK and the EU. And that's generating over $1 trillion. And that's just online shopping. So it's a massive opportunity just in the EU and the UK. And that's incidentally one of the first international marketplaces where sellers choose to start their international journey. Often it's through the UK and then across the EU. Another great opportunity in an emerging market would be Mexico. Mexico is one of the fastest growing marketplaces or stores that we have. It's grown an average of 30% year over year for the last several years, continues to grow. Sellers on Amazon can reach customers very easily in Mexico through a network we call North American Remote Fulfillment, NARF we call it. What that is, it allows you to have your products warehoused in our facilities in the US and be able to ship them directly to the customer, the end consumer in Mexico, without having to do cross-border logistics or have your products sitting, within Mexico. So again, I would say that anywhere that Amazon is a massive opportunity for sellers to reach global customers.
Thank you. Thank you. Mark Holden. We have got quite a few small businesses in Delaware in the biotech industry, as you well know. Many of them that we work with that export Delaware produce and export products that are used by pharma manufacturers like AstraZeneca. Would you be able to share what international markets you feel might be presenting the most promising opportunities, if you can, for life science companies, and what you're seeing and why?
Thanks. Great question. So let me answer that question this way. First and foremost, as a company, AstraZeneca's focus is that there are patients in every market, and we want to make sure that we create supply chains and access to all of those patients all over the world from that standpoint. And typically, if we're going to pick a specific market, it's going to be based on how we're going to do launches. And so AstraZeneca's, say it's a $40+ billion company now. Over the next 5 years, we're in the process of doubling the size of the company. Right? So that's a tremendous amount of growth that's going to happen, and that's going to happen across the world. We're investing in the US, we're investing in Singapore, we're investing in a number of countries around the world to ensure that we have that type of access, and we're actually starting to leverage new technologies. Typically, over the last 5 years, we've done about 750 launches. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but for a pharmaceutical company, that's plenty. Actually, we're going to do 1,500. We're doubling the size of our launches, and those are going to be in every single market that we're in today, and we're expanding on that. So to pick a specific market would be challenging for me to say, hey, it's going to be this market or that market. I'm not sure that would be the right way for me to present that. So we're obviously expanding our presence in all markets and access for all patients.
I have a question. Yes. It sounds like, based on most of your responses, where you go and your success depends on local partners. Would you say that would be part of your,
Absolutely. Local partnerships in all of the markets we're in are critical to our success, whether it's in the delivery phase, whether it's in the manufacturing phase. I'm an operations person, not commercial and sales, so for many of these local partnerships are critical because many of our supply chains, portions of it are outsourced to partners that are a valuable part of the make and delivery phases of the process. So this is why it's critical for us to have a presence in all these markets and leverage those types of partnerships and not sort of pick and choose. Because at the end of our supply chain is a patient that relies on us making sure that that medicine's available. We're all patients. Everyone knows a patient, everyone's been a patient, and knows that what that means to get that critical pharmaceutical product that you need when you need it.
Oleg, you come from my industry, and no matter how crazy the times, everyone has to eat. Right? My father told me when I was a little girl, he had a pizzeria in an Italian restaurant. And he said, no matter if it's good times or if it's bad, people always have to eat. Would you be able to share some of the most important things that you feel a new to export company should know when they're considering an export strategy?
Well, I would think that in our industry, the chicken industry, and in general with any company that exports food, as opposed to high-tech items or any manufactured goods, the biggest challenge is always the access to foreign markets. And that's something that our colleagues in other areas of export not necessarily have to deal with. If for any company that is involved in exporting items that are more commodity, like agriculture or food, in my case, chicken, the most important thing, I believe, is market diversification. We, in our industry, can relate to what is going on now in the general global trade environment. We all are concerned about market disruptions and uncertainty and tariffs and retaliation. So for some industries, it is something new. For us, it is how we lived all those years. For us, the current series of disruptions is just another chapter in the ones that we had in the past 40 years. Because agriculture has never been playing in a level playing field. There has never been such thing as free and fair trade in agricultural goods. Under the World Trade Organization rules and the global trade regime before it, there was always an exception for so-called sanitary and phytosanitary measures, on the basis of which a government could introduce restrictions as it wishes. So we in agriculture had never had any guaranteed access, and our key to success was the ability to pivot. So just to give you a few examples, in mid-1990s, European Union introduced a regulation which created a union-wide set of rules on how you process chickens and other animals. And since it was a completely different set of rules than what U.S. poultry industry has practiced, we lost access to the European Union. In late 1990s, early 2000s, Russia absorbed about half of all U.S. chicken exports. Then, in 2014, when there was that exchange of sanctions between us and Russia, it disappeared. So China was a big market for U.S. chicken, and in 2015 there was one wild falcon found in the state of Washington, which had highly pathogenic avian influenza. China banned the United States. Not a county, not a state, the whole country. So we lost the market. So the key for our industry has always been not to rely on one market or just a set of a small number of countries. We need to strike in all directions, because the reality of international trade is once you venture outside the United States, you are dealing with sovereign countries, and the government pretty much can do whatever they want. And we export mostly now to Southeast Asia, Latin America, and Africa, but we never rely on one single market because sometimes it's very tempting. You are extremely successful in one market. There may be a country that pays more for your product than anything else. And with a limited supply, and in agriculture we do have limited supply, it's very tempting just to rely on that one market. The rule is to never do that, because you can lose the access to that market tomorrow. So that's the reality in our agricultural world. That's what I can share with you as the key to success from my perspective.
Thank you. Yes. You never know. You never know. That's for sure. And I think that's what makes our business, international business, so interesting. I did domestic sales and marketing for 6 months, only, and was born out of my mind, and years ago, and went back to international. As interesting as it can be, and as troublesome as it can be, it is always very exciting because you never know what's going to happen and when it's going to happen, right? But it can work the other way too. We returned from a trip to Morocco, and really helps when you have a nice, good king who wants what you have to sell, right? Things can go much quicker, and then you don't have to worry about all the bureaucratic nonsense. But you do have to be prepared. Andy, with the current environment, what country or market areas would you see in your area as the best for a new to export or a new to market expansion company? And would you see any to stand clear of and say, oh God, not them?
Yeah.
We all have those on our list.
It's a good question, and as the other speakers have said, things change rapidly. I can really only speak from a small business medical device perspective, which is layers and layers of regulatory challenges, so it may not be applicable to others. Certainly, when we started, we looked at a number of countries, and I think that, as the governor said, our promotion is borderless now, right? Your website is available to everybody around the world in an instant. So you tend to get inquiries from everywhere. And the temptation is, oh, somebody's interested in my product. And you just chase after that. And I found that a good discipline was to be able, I never want to say no to anybody, but to say not yet. So if that country's not right, to say, I'm sorry, here's the information, but not yet. And then take more of a sniper rifle approach at countries where the regulatory environment was more favorable. So one example was India, where we sold a lot of product. We went there many times. It was an excellent choice for us. But recently, in the last couple of years, India has put in their own equivalent of FDA, and with President Modi, there's a very big focus on made in India. So now that market's shifted. So we looked at Japan, traditionally 120 million hypochondriacs. So, device companies, great target, regulatorily impossible. Their regulatory compliance is a barrier to entry. So you weigh those things up. I would say, I'll answer the question eventually.
No.
In two ways. One, I would agree with Yvonne that Export Delaware is a great resource. So if Beth and Emma can't give you the answer, they can tell you who can. So they'll put you in touch with DMAC, people at state, people in the embassy, people at the World Trade Center. You can have resources where you can look at your harmonized tariff code, and there's resources where you can look to see how many did that country import, how many did they export. So you can build a picture based on data, not just based on gut feel or I'd really like to go to Costa Rica.
You did that.
I did that with you. For all the right reasons. So I think if you build that picture, then you can make an informed decision. And as we've seen, things change. It's always a bit of a roll of the dice. But if you use data and the resources that are always freely available, then you can make a more informed decision. For a medical device company or a small business, I would say that the Middle East is a very prosperous and interesting market. A lot of investment in health. We've seen Saudi Arabia opening up recently. I mean, a few years ago when we looked at Saudi, there's no tourist visas. It was hard to get a business visa. You could get a visa if you were going to Mecca, but to do business was difficult. Now that's all changing with them, opening up in sports and in industry, and so I think that would be somewhere to look at. And certainly Kuwait and UAE are very open to U.S. products. They have a high value, a perceived value. So if I was starting a new business, I'd start there. and then use the resources available to assess other markets. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you. Yes, and from the food industry, I'm sure, Oleg, you'll agree with me, Japan is a nightmare when it comes to to regulatory. Where is Jason and Steve? There are, yeah, you've also experienced the Made in India barrier with your products in India as well. So again, not saying no and never look at those markets, but you know, we always like to advise companies, especially small businesses, there's so many countries in the world, go after more of your low-hanging fruit to help with your cash flow. Because obviously, you know, just like you'd have to invest to expand your US business, you know, you do have to invest internationally. Okay. I think you've started this, Andy, but let me take this back to you. You have launched international divisions several times in your career from the ground up. Any additional guidance that you'd like to share here for anyone getting started?
Sure. I would think that there's a couple of simple things that small companies can do. It's expensive to export, and you have to do it properly, and some of this might sound overly simplistic, but please, think about translation. Translation can be expensive. Don't rely on Google Translate. Get professionals who understand the subtleties of the market. It's not just syntax and grammar. There's a whole, you need expert help on that. Another thing is, please, God's sake, put your specs in metric. Just unless you're planning on dealing with Liberia or Myanmar, two markets that would be fairly low on your list. Imperial measurements, it's almost an insult if you just ignore that small thing. Have your business card translated. I think business card's basically free, right? So just that's a politeness that people appreciate if you've just even taken that small step. So those are just some practical things that I found to be helpful. But more importantly, just use the resources that are available. And if you had to summarize that, I'd say just ask Beth. That would be my thought.
Thank you. Thank you. Mark, Carter, how do you see businesses, both large and small, using the Amazon platform?
There's one on your chair. Everyone has.
Oh,
Yeah, they all should.
Of course they do. You guys are so efficient. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, my question was, how do you see businesses, both large and small, using Amazon as a platform to expand globally?
Yes, I'd like to kick it back to my colleagues here too for what they mentioned about the things to consider when you're expanding globally first.
Yes, please.
There's some really good points, and they're all correct. It's not to be taken lightly. As much as Amazon provides many tools for sellers to use in order to understand the international marketplaces that they're interested in, we have tools to help you understand whether your products will sell in a particular marketplace, what the competition looks like there, where there's perhaps some white space for your products. But in general, the things to consider are the same as my colleagues here said. There's compliance issues in each country that you're looking to sell in. And that could be tax compliance. For instance, in the EU, any marketplace or any country that you sell your products, you have to have a VAT, which is a registered tax ID number for that country. And there's a process that you go through to apply for that. It takes time to get it, so that can impact your supply chain as well for the products you're looking to sell. There's regulatory compliance. So what kind of products are you selling? Are you selling something that's ingestible, like a supplement? You're going to have those products tested in each market, and each country has their own specific regulations. And as my colleagues mentioned, Japan is more difficult than some of the others even for that. They have a higher level of compliance regulations. So how do you do that? What are your options? Within Amazon, we have what's called a service provider network. And you can access that from what's called Seller Central. For those of you who sell on Amazon, you'll know that's your main dashboard to manage your business. And you can access independent resources in each of these countries that can provide you with the expertise you needed. So these are outside service providers that have been vetted by Amazon and that we can recommend to undertake these regulatory testing and anything that you might need. So there are a lot of things to consider, but we do have the resources and we do invest heavily in helping you understand where you should go and where your products will sell and what you need to do to get your products into those marketplaces.
Thank you. And, with CE mark and other compliance testing, yeah, that's all on in one of your resources, I presume, as well, for compliance?
Yes, exactly. And for instance, in the EU, they're undergoing a massive leveling up of regulations, to put it that way. And it differs from country to country. So it can be very confusing. But like I said, and like Beth mentioned, we have tremendous resources to help you understand, what you need to do and whether that's going to make sense for your business in each particular marketplace. So there are tools to understand that the return on investment you're going to get potentially by selling your products into these particular marketplaces. So there's lots of opportunity, there's lots of considerations, but we do have the resources and the tools to help small businesses understand where they should go next and on their international journey.
Thank you. Thank you. Mark Holder, would you please share any of your advice for Delaware bioscience exporters looking to go global or that are already selling international a little bit and looking to expand into other markets?
Sure. I'd first and foremost, I'll just at a higher level, I would just say, as exporters and small businesses, as you're growing your businesses, continue to be curious, as you already are, and ask the questions around. And it was a great example we heard this morning from Yvonne from talking about how she grew her business. That came out of her, not looking at that as an obstacle, as an opportunity, and staying curious and finding opportunities, in maybe a setback. And I would say continue to lean into that. Trust your instincts and be intentional about what you're going to do from that standpoint. I think as you expand, I think for me to sort of talk about small businesses growing and going international, we think about that differently here at AstraZeneca because we're already a global, very large company globally. But the same challenges small businesses face, we face those same challenges. We have market access problems the same as small businesses do. We may solve those a little bit differently. We clearly use partnerships in certain markets to get access there, or we build plants there, right? That's probably not a choice for each of you to build a plant, but I would lean into partnerships and find if you want access to a particular market and you don't have the expertise, but you think that's a valuable market for you, you should go and partner with someone that you trust and that you feel like you can work with that can help you expand in that particular market. We do it all the time. Remember, the last mile of every pharmaceutical is delivered locally via local transportation organizations, things like that. So clearly, those local partnerships are a really important part of how you all will do business. You've done that successfully here in the US. It's now just finding the right opportunity and the right partners to do that globally as well.
And maybe too, if you all might comment on, every industry is a little different. But oftentimes, particularly when we look at your multinational companies, like all of you and like AstraZeneca, if someone sells to your U.S. entity here already, do you feel, for each of you, that it would help them sell, let's say, to AstraZeneca in Singapore, if they're already, a vendor here, does that help them get in? I know every industry is different. Some it does, some it doesn't. I'm not so sure how it works within AstraZeneca.
So I'll comment on that. That's a pretty broad question, but
Yeah.
let me just slice it down just a little bit and say that we have a global procurement organization, and so those types, if you're working with AstraZeneca and you're one of our partners and we're purchasing from you and it happens to be here in the US, and that means you're already in our procurement system.
Yeah.
There's no reason why we wouldn't also purchase from you to supply to us in other countries as well, as long as you've cleared the regulatory hurdles and things like that. And so so the procurement process that we have would allow that to happen naturally within AstraZeneca, because it's not like we have procurement in every market. We have a procurement organization that works globally and works by, for us, it's by brand and by market. That's how we go to market. And so I would say, yes, if you're already working with AstraZeneca in the US and you were trying to expand, you should talk to your procurement person and say, hey, I think there's opportunities for us to work even further and supply not just the US market, but other markets as well. So there's definitely an avenue for that to happen, absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. That's very helpful. Thank you. Oleg, we touched a bit about how the poultry industry has both tariff and non-tariff barriers to entry. Would you expand a little bit about on your diversification strategy and what you do to ensure that the business is overall is continued? I'm sure with the tariffs on China and different parts of the world eating beaks and feet that aren't our top sellers here in the U.S. You've had to diversify. Maybe if you could just explain on a little bit more about what you do on your diversification efforts and how you pivot your approach and how you're always ready.
Okay. Well, the first thing, as I mentioned before, is just to not rely on single market and pursue business in different regions of the world. But also, in addition to geographic diversification, an important thing is to pursue a product diversification in the markets that you are already present. I mean, of course, in our humble industry, I mean, you can only cut the chicken so many ways. But there are markets that historically were buying only chicken leg quarters. That the big quarter of chicken, the leg, which includes the drumsticks and thigh and the portion of the back. And while our industry was moving more and more towards dark meat deboning, because Americans eat more and more dark meat now. It used to be just a boneless thigh market in the United States, but now more and more people prefer boneless dark meat. And the number one item in the United States of dark meat wise is boneless, skinless thighs. And it's becoming more and more popular. As a result, our industry is deboning more and more dark meat, and boneless thighs go to the US market because it can afford it, and we are left with chicken drumstick, which wasn't a big item in export 20 years ago. And so we made an effort to introduce our leg quarter customers to chicken drumsticks, and they started appreciating that. Also, I would say that in effort to diversify exports, there's no substitute to getting knowledge about the markets. And of course, in our industry, we always have an outlet selling product not directly overseas, but selling to trading companies. There are great professional trading companies in the United States who would buy any food that they can find, and they would successfully export it overseas. And they're doing a great job. But that leaves us if we just work with them and not directly with buyers overseas, a little blind sometimes to what is going on in the market. So I would say that if for successful diversification of exports, it's important to travel to the markets. I mean, I know it's expensive and time consuming, but it is also exciting. From our perspective, from agricultural experience, a great way to move diversification forward is participating in global and regional trade shows. And like from our side, USA Poultry and Egg Export Council is helping us a lot, but I'm sure that in any other industry, especially in the commodity areas, there are other industry organizations that help with that. And so we go to global food shows in Europe and Latin America and Dubai, and that's the way to meet customers, especially if you're not directly exporting somewhere. A regional trade show is a great venue to meet somebody. And one just example from the past about the importance of going to the markets directly. I mean, before I traveled to Africa for the first time myself, for years we were selling chicken leg quarters in 10-kilogram boxes to Africa. The rest of the world buys them in 15-kilogram boxes. Africa always wants them. And I was always wondering why. And people who thought they knew why, they always told me, oh, but that's because in Africa, the most people who shop are ladies, and they buy the whole box, and they carry boxes on their heads. And 15 kilogram is way too heavy. Okay, so I come to Africa, first visit with the customer, and the first thing I see in his warehouse is a lady who puts 3 10-kilogram boxes on her head and walks. So obviously that theory which I bought had nothing to do with the rail. It mostly had to do with the cold chain. So that's my point is just don't afraid to travel. Try to see how your product is sold and consumed. There is no substitute for that.
Thank you. That's a great story. I'm going to change the subject a little bit. Given our current environment, I've been getting some questions from companies that are approaching me about a recent presidential executive order regarding the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act from our business community. Given that it is still the law of the land, and it was always, I'm not an attorney, but I'll defer to our legal expertise here. We always have to have the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act in our international distributor agreements. Andy, as a small business, I'd like to direct the next question to you, because many of the businesses are saying, hey, what's up with this? The executive order has paused the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act for 180 days. And as it is still the law of the land, could you share how your business is managing this right now and any guidance you might offer to the companies?
Yeah, this is where the audience glazes over, right?
Yes, I
Get
know.
the weeds of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. Anybody who's been involved in export is aware of it. It was legislation brought in during Carter's administration. And it basically says you can't bribe foreign government officials. And it's been part of everything, and it's not just having it in distributor agreements. We're a small company, we don't have offices around the world, so we rely on distributor partnerships, and that could be a whole other seminar, right, on how do you find them and maximize those efforts. But the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, as you said, Beth, has to be part of your agreements. They have to agree that they've read it, understand it, and abide by it. But also internally, you have to show that you have procedures, training, transparency, so that those rather vague headings, marketing or expenses, are not used as ways to hide perhaps lavish expenditure in certain countries. So my advice is just act as if it's still a law of the land, because it is. It's been suspended in the tsunami of executive orders. This was one that came in. It was quite surprising. I didn't know it was a problem, but it's been suspended, and Secretary Bondi's team is looking at all current investigations to see if they should be proceeded or ended. So I think the two pieces of advice are, one, get legal help in constructing your agreements, and to make sure that that's covered, and continue as if it is a law of the land, because not only is it law, but I think it's best practice. I think it makes you a better company. If you're relying on slightly underhand tactics to gain business, it's going to bite you in the ass at some point. So I think just continue to act in a way that is transparent, that is that does have practices and training to make sure that your staff are not doing any of this. This act has teeth. Walmart were, let's say, accelerating planning permission to build stores in Mexico, and they got fined $200 million. Siemens, one of the biggest medical device companies in the world, a foreign company but has offices in the US, fined $800 million for these practices. So this is a law with teeth that needs to be abided by, and I think that you have to, in your own personal interactions with distributors, with customers, you have to think about, is a gift a bribe, right? Can a gift be seen as a bribe? And that's a personal sort of issue. In some countries, a gift is a sign of respect and quite normal. In the Middle East, you might see a procurement officer or a purchasing person, and it might be quite customary for you to give them something, and that would be allowable. And it's a bit of a tightrope. One time I was struggling with this, and I asked Beth, and she gave me some paperweights with the seal of Delaware on. They were in gold, and I gave one to a hospital purchasing officer, and she loved it. It was like she'd got an award. So, it has no monetary value. They can't resell it. But if I'd taken her out to, a nightclub and spent drinking all night, then that would be, and put it off as expenses, then that would be different. So I think you have to be careful. And just to give you the opposite side, one time we had two members of the Korean FDA come to our facility. What a great week that was. And they were both from different sections of the FDA. And so for lunch and dinner, we had to get separate receipts for them. So they're the complete opposite of this. They had to pay for their own lunch and dinner. Even if we brought in sandwiches from Einstein's Bagels, they had to have a separate receipt to show that we weren't in any way enticing them or doing something. So there's a whole spectrum of gift giving, and I would think that being familiar with it, getting legal help on the documentation, and using best practice will keep you out of jail.
Always great. Let's turn the conversation to sustainability and global sustainability. Mark, how's AstraZeneca investing in sustainability, and what initiatives are you leading to position the company as a leader in this space?
Thanks. Great question for us. AstraZeneca has taken a really strong position overall. Our CEO, Pascal Soriot, has made it a point to take a real leadership position, not only in the pharmaceutical industry, but I think across any industry, with regards to who we want to be and how we want to show up. Healthy people, healthy society, healthy planet. Those three things only come through a dedicated focus and effort with regards to what we're going to do. By 2026, 98% of all of our carbon emissions will we'll have neutralized those through renewable energies and things like that. We've got investments happening here in the U.S. with using renewable natural gas to power our plants from that standpoint. And we're in the process by 2030 to be carbon neutral by 2030, carbon negative by 2045. And so sustainability is built into all of our supply chain designs at this point. We track carbon when I fly somewhere. It's not only how much I spend, I actually have to track my carbon as well. And so we have to know, we have carbon targets that we track within the company. And what we're doing now is we replace our old planning systems with newer ones, is we're actually building in the capability to track the carbon footprint of the planning of all the products that we're going to do, so we'll know right away what's happening. And so we're looking internally first, but we're also expanding that across all of our partners that are going to be in our value chain. So by 2045, our value chain will be carbon negative. By 2030, it should be carbon neutral with regards to the work that we're doing with AstraZeneca. There's a great example right down here on 95, the Newark plant. Has a huge solar array, plus they're also already involved with using the work we're doing with Vanguard in renewable natural gas from that standpoint. Part of the powering of that plant comes from that, and I think a portion of the power already comes from the solar panels that they've installed. And so there's a true commitment to AstraZeneca to really take ownership of how we impact, what our impact is, not only in our communities through the products we supply, but our impact on how we impact the earth based on where our manufacturing plants are and things like that. So I would say that I'm proud to work for a company that's really, really taken that seriously and is actually truly doing activities and built it into who we're going to be, how we're going to show up each and every day.
Is Astra, or do you foresee Astra requiring your suppliers to do the same, through the procurement process at some point?
That's already started. We've already done a tremendous amount of work over the last couple of years. In fact, I was just talking to Jared Pomper, who was running our procurement organizations for a number of years here. That process has already started. And we've had to make some tough decisions with regards to not working with certain partners because they chose not to sort of come on board with how we view and where we're headed with carbon emissions and how to manage that properly. And so the answer is it's built into all of our procurement. It's being built into all of our procurement contracts, and we're only going to work with people in our value chain that take the same standards that AstraZeneca is establishing. So we got our own house in order, and now we're going down our value chain and working with our partners the same way.
Thank you. Very admirable. We're starting to see, several of our Delaware multinationals, but clearly Astra is taking the lead on this.
We are, and the answer is it's not like a no. It's just like, here are the standards that we want, and we'll work with you to help you establish that and get yourselves aligned if you want to work with us, what that's going to mean. It's not simply like, here it is and go figure it out. We'll actually partner with you. We'll say, here's what we're doing, here's how we got there. Let us help you do the same thing. Vanguard renewable natural gas, they came to us and said, here's what we're going to do. Our scientists are working directly with their scientists to help them optimize that process. So we're leaning in too. We're not just saying, hey, here's the standard. We're saying we're going to work with you to help you get to that standard so we can continue to partner.
And I think that's the difference, because out of the few that are requiring it now through their procurement process of the vendors, you are the only company that I've heard of that doesn't just say, this is the requirement, figure it out.
No.
That actually goes and helps a potential small business meet your criteria, to engage with the community and to help them succeed for the good of everyone. So thank you for your leadership on that. That's really admirable. Thank you. I'm going to open this up to the group here, to the panel. Where do you see the role of AI and technology in the future of your industry's exports? Who'd like the $1 million question? Who wants to start?
I'll start.
Okay.
It's not a long answer, but clearly we're at AstraZeneca in operations. I'll speak to operations. That's what I know is sort of how we make and deliver and produce our, the automation has always been a big part of what's happened in our plant floors and things like that. And AI and those types of technologies are only going to make that better from that standpoint. But the automation above our plant floor, sort of at more what we call the corporate level, things like that, I think there's a tremendous amount of opportunity there. AI is not going to replace our jobs. It's going to help us do our jobs better. And so what we're looking at and what we're talking about is how do we partner with and use that type of technology to give us the supply chains of the future. We have an entire program that's called Self-Healing Supply Chain of the Future. That's going to be based on leveraging technology that's in the AI space from that standpoint, how we coordinate our planning systems, and a number of different activities that we probably do manually now that we can automate in the future. There's no reason why we shouldn't do that because it allows us to be more efficient, more effective. It allows us to release people to work on different types of activities within the organization overall. And so that should lower the cost of manufacturing and delivery of medicines, not increase it.
Thank you. Mark?
Well, on a high level, AI is touching every element of our business and our lives, really. I think you can see it initially, if you've shopped on Amazon recently, there's a virtual assistant called Rufus. And you can ask this assistant any question about a product and it will instantly give you the information back based on the tremendous amount of data, obviously, that it can access. Just with we were having a conversation earlier about our fulfillment centers. We're not replacing jobs, but we're making our fulfillment centers more efficient through robotics and through AI. The ultimate goal for Amazon, we are a customer-obsessed company. So we are trying to make the experience always better for our customers. And AI is obviously going to play a role in that, whether it's getting the products delivered to you faster, or whether it's making it easier for you to search for products, or as a seller on Amazon, making it easier for you, like I mentioned before, to understand what products you have, where would they sell best, where's your opportunity, what kind of return can you expect, what kind of issues can you expect, and then helping you to solve those as well. So it's about accessing a tremendous amount of information very quickly. And I think you're going to see that continuing. Ever faster as we move forward.
Yeah, our director of regulatory compliance and operations is here, so he's probably better suited to answer this. But I think that as a small company, we've always looking to design new products, and I think that design of user interface, of solving problems, of bringing an innovative new product to market, it's just been accelerated by the use of AI, which is very helpful for us to, if we can get that process, get 6 months off bringing it to market, then we all win. So in product design and development, I think we're using it aggressively. He's probably up there shaking his head, but.
Oleg, would you like to comment?
Well, I guess as an old guy who sells chicken for a living, I'm not sure how much I can say about AI, but in reality, AI changes the way we all work. Regardless of the industry. From just not talking about the production of chicken, but specifically export. I see that we are already successfully using the tools for marketing. Marketing is where AI is the advantages are visible pretty vividly right now. Also, believe it or not, in the world of modern shipping, when we deal with container loads of commodity shipping around the world, that is still pretty artisanal. I'm actually surprised how little the technology has penetrated as of today, the world of ocean shipping and freight forwarding. That's a huge opportunity for improving the efficiency of the supply chain. But also, as a word of caution, when we use AI tools for market intelligence to get knowledge about what is going on in the markets, that is something that we need to be careful with, because the information provided by AI tools is only good as the data that is in. And we try to play with multiple AI agents to get engines to collect information about how products are consumed in foreign markets and what the regulations are. There's a lot that is left to be desired there, just because the database available is far from perfect.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, I'm going to open it to the audience for some questions, and I'm going to allow our business owners to ask questions first. I'm sure many of you have questions for the panel. Yes?
Hi, Jake Mazzola. I'm an account manager with the Commerce Company. So a lot of questions here have been, or a lot of the topics have been about business to consumer and how that strategy is changing. With the business environment kind of constantly changing, especially kind of more accelerating over the last 5 years, how do you see the business to business relationship changing? Is there a different approach to that? And how are you guys kind of projecting that to change in the future?
Did everybody hear the question? How does the panel see the business to business group changing, sales cycle change, and how do you see it changing in the future?
So I'll start. I'm just going to restate one of the things we were just talking about. For AstraZeneca, when working with us, it's going to be, where are you at from a sustainability journey, and are you willing to partner with us? And if not, then that's going to be a barrier for us to working together from a business-to-business standpoint. And so I think that's important for all small businesses to sort of think about, is where you're headed with your sustainability journey overall for a company like AstraZeneca.
Yeah, we deal mainly with other small businesses, small distributors, not really national players so much. And I don't see much of that changing. I would agree with Oleg. You have to travel, you have to get in front of people, you have to break bread with them. And I think that I don't see that changing. It's a relationship world when you're in a small business, and building, somebody mentioned it earlier, I think maybe the governor talked about trust. Building trust, and it takes time and it takes personal engagement. And so I can't put my finger on anything to answer your question directly, other than I don't see a great deal of that changing.
I would say with Amazon, you're right, we've been talking about B2C, but Amazon is also a tremendous B2B resource for companies as well. So just like you can open an account for your B2C, you can also register your business to have access to B2B. Obviously, there's special pricing involved, quantities, whatever those types of things that you would have with the B2B relationship. You have those elements on Amazon as well. So yes, Amazon primarily we're talking about SMBs and reaching new global customers, but for businesses, and I mean enterprise businesses as well, there's a tremendous opportunity to connect with other businesses, sell your products at scale to other businesses, enterprise businesses globally as well. So it's a big opportunity for Amazon, our business-to-business resources.
And like you're B2B as well. You're not B2C.
Yes. And from our perspective, I mean, we operate in the same paradigm as international sellers were operating for, like, I would say, centuries. I mean, you deal with somebody overseas who you cannot really control sometimes. It all depends on the relationships, and I agree with Andy wholeheartedly. I mean, it's the trust, and we in international business. As a seller or a buyer, you're only good as your reputation is, and your reputation depends on you will do and what you say you will do. So it's very traditional, at least in our world. The basis is the same.
Thank you, thank you. Andrea?
Thanks. Your comments have been so interesting and insightful. I'm wondering if there's advice that you can give to small business owners here with respect to tariffs that might be coming our way. And it seems to me that there may be additional resilience, but additional strategies that they should consider, or certain pearls of wisdom that you can offer with respect to these headwinds that appear to be approaching.
That's an easy one.
The easiest one of them all. So Andy, why don't you start with that one? Any advice regarding the tariffs and any kind of headwinds that might be affecting our small business owners? And that's why we're all here today. I'm sure it's on everybody's mind.
I would never suggest looking at your harmonized tariff code and see if you could change it for one with a lower tariff. Other companies might do that, but I would never suggest that. I think that the issue with tariffs right now is the uncertainty, right? We've seen them 0, 25%, 50%, back to 25%. We don't really know, and uncertainty is really bad for international trade, especially with the sophisticated marketplace that we have. We all buy parts from China, and sometimes things have to go back to China for repair and then come back. So is that fourfold tariff? I mean, those sorts of considerations are really important. So I know people have been looking at Vietnam or Cambodia as different manufacturing partners. My advice is build on the relationships that you have and wait it out, because it's just too difficult right now to make. There's no the ground is like quicksand. You can't. It's hard to make a decision based on the current, I would say, uncertain economic environment for international trade. So just stick where you are. I was so pleased by NAFTA, right? By our biggest partners, Mexico and Canada, being open. They're easy for people to export. You can drive there, right? You can drive there. So they were great markets. So this current loss of NAFTA, I think is somewhat of a tragedy for somebody who's basically had their whole life in export. It just seems so odd. And I don't know how to plan for the next 3 to 6 months other than wait and hope that cooler heads prevail and things get sorted out. Not much help, I'm afraid, sorry.
No, that was very good help.
I would just comment that AstraZeneca is probably in the same place. We're a little bit of a bigger company, but we're clearly working with each of the governments and representatives, things like that, and we're taking a wait-and-see approach. We're not making any big changes to anything we're doing at this point.
Would Mark or Oleg like to comment on if you're taking a wait-and-see approach, or if you're just business as usual, or if you're modifying a little bit?
I think a little bit of everything. No, I think in general it's everyone recognizes uncertainty, but it's not altering what our strategy is and our optimism for the potential for sellers to reach global customers. So, essentially it's business as usual until it's not.
Yeah, exactly. Oleg, and our food chain, is so integrated. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. And particularly our pork and our beef industry goes back and forth across the border with Canada several times. So we don't know, is it a Canadian hamburger or is it an American hamburger? The million-dollar question. In your industry, what's Meyer doing? Are you taking a wait and see, or are you trying to diversify again as your good business practice?
For now, it's mostly wait and see because it is uncertainty, as everybody before me said. But I would say that an important thing for us when we look at the possible retaliation by our trading partners, and Canada has already increased its duty on U.S. poultry by 25%. And we don't know what Mexico is going to do if the trade war continues. So there may be some other retaliations from other trading partners. But I think the main thing is not to panic, is to see what it really is. Because China, for example, they did introduce 15% on additional on U.S. poultry, but 15% on the scale of like normal market fluctuations and some other price ups and downs caused by other things, by tariffs, it's not really a big deal. So every case needs to be considered separately, and there is no need to panic until you see what it really is. Just to take Canada as an example, I mean, yes, it is horrible, and like any person who is involved in export, I hate tariffs and increase in tariffs. It hurts our business. But if you look at the reasons Canadian chicken is so expensive, is because they have very strong restrictions on access to Canadian markets. And from what I hear from our partners in Canada, the 25% duty that Canada has introduced puts the additional cost on imports of U.S. chicken, but it's not enough to offset the cost advantage of our chickens compared to the cost of Canadian chicken. Mm-hmm. So they can take it. We didn't even have to drop the price yet. So each case is different. It's wait and see and take it step by step.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Do we have any other questions? Oh, Niraj, you had a question. Yes, please.
Just a comment and question. I want to extol the virtues of working with Beth and her group. She's a great partner, as many others, in helping us win a large contract award in Mexico. It's actually turning into more and more revenue and project-based work. But a question for the panel. As a small business owner, you have a certain amount of bandwidth daily to deal with running a business, international operations. What, from your experience, what are some telltale signs that it's time to leave a market? I don't mean that as a negative on exports, rather an opportunity to maybe refocus on an existing market or open a new market. What are some of the sort of signals or signs that you've seen in your careers, in your different markets, that this is not working out, it's better for us to maybe pack up and focus our efforts elsewhere?
That's a great question. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question, Niraj. Niraj and I did export training together with Beth, so it's nice to see you again. I think that if a market starts to consume a lot of your time, if you're finding that when you're a small business, you work with distributors, you're buying time. That's what you're doing. You're trying to, they have a briefcase with 6 other companies or maybe 60 other companies, depending on your market. And you're trying to buy as much time as you can. And if they've discovered a new vendor who has better margins or more attractive promotion or whatever, then they're not going to tell you that. But then their time in front of their customer talking about your product or your service starts to diminish. You don't know about it for about 3 to 6 months, probably. It takes you a long time for that to filter through. But I think that if you see revenues diminish as a very good trigger, and you're not really getting a satisfactory explanation, it will come down to this amount of time that they're willing to invest because the market's shifted. And now that might not mean that you get out of the market. It might mean that you just get out of that distribution partnership and look for another, which is incredibly time consuming and a pain in the ass. But just something that you have to do. So I would say declining revenues, declining time spent on your product, less lead inquiries, less requests for more support, less requests. The more demanding a distributor is, the more that they want your time, they want your support material, your marketing material, the better, right? That's the problems to have. When it's silence, then I think that's a red flag for sure.
Would any of you like to comment?
Yeah, I would say from a small business owner, a seller on Amazon, entering into a new market, a new marketplace, a new international marketplace, it is, like I had mentioned before, there's a lot of considerations in investment. So typically sellers who choose to launch into an international marketplace, you need to give it time for for inbounding of your products, for all of the things we talked about. I'll get down into the minutia of the listing pages and the detail pages and the translations and the photography. Everything that you're doing in order to be successful in that marketplace takes time and investment. So you want to consider these things first, obviously. But I would say that you need to give 6 months to a year in order to understand your products in that marketplace, in order to understand whether or not you might have more opportunity with other selection that might sell better than the selection you currently have. We always talk about expanding your selection. You test the marketplace with maybe your best product, doing the research and understanding whether that product will have an affinity for that customer in that marketplace. And then adding selection and growing your business that way. So that all does take time and investment, to your point. I can't really put a specific factor that would say, listen, I'm going to stop selling here. It's not working. That's going to be, I think, specific to everybody. But doing the homework ahead of time and understanding what the investment is going to be, because it is an investment, right? You have to do the compliance testing. You have to do possibly labeling. You have to maybe adjust your supply chain in order to get the products into the warehouse and our facilities there. How much are you going to need, and what is your run rate going to be, and your turnover? And so there's a lot of things to consider, and you need to just give it time. There's advertising, there's marketing, all these other cost factors. And the great thing about Amazon is we do provide all of these tools for you to understand and to measure what that's going to look like for each individual business. So I think it's just a matter of giving it time, but also doing the work up front before you make that decision.
I'll just build on those points. I think for AstraZeneca, I don't know that we would leave markets. I think what we do is we would probably remove products from the market but not leave the market, because we're pretty much commercialized across all the markets with multiple different therapeutic areas and products. I think we probably make that choice on the front end, meaning would we actually enter that market with that product? Does it make sense for us to be in that market with that particular product? And we scrutinize that pretty heavily on the front end, from a manufacturing standpoint, but also from a commercialization standpoint.
Mike?
Yeah, I would just add a couple of potential scenarios that in our industry would lead us to, if not leave, but minimize their presence in the market to a symbolic level. So one of that would be when we feel that the government in our target country is getting really, really serious about killing imports. And it is becoming so difficult that it does not worth the fight anymore. I mean, it's like to give you an example, in our business, South Africa, I mean, South Africa is notoriously protectionist when it comes to agriculture, and especially poultry. I mean, their poultry industry is well known for dirty tricks and lobbying, and they will test imports for any kinds of things that can come with on the microbiological level, and you don't know how those tests are being conducted. And of course, the domestic products are not subjected to the same to that type of scrutiny. So that would be one scenario. We're not writing it off, but it's definitely not a priority market for us. So another scenario would be where you deal with a market where you run into an overwhelming presence of foreign competitor from a third country that has specific advantage, competitive advantage compared to you. So we, for example, we deal with Brazilian competition around the world, and Brazil is number one exporter of poultry. And we can beat Brazil anytime when it comes to the value items such as chicken leg quarters or drumsticks. But when it comes to higher end stuff like chicken breast or whole meals that they sell to the Middle East, for example, this is not the area we want to compete because our domestic market would always pay more. So we had a stint with Japan when we created, I think we were the only company in the US who created a product which complied with Japanese standards. We played in the market for several years. We were extremely proud of our accomplishment, but after several years, we realized that Brazil was just always beat us price-wise. And that was not the market to stay in. So these are the two scenarios that I would add to.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. How are we doing on time? Okay. Yes, Carla.
Carla Stone, World Trade Center, Delaware. And it's nice to see so many of the companies that we've worked with here. With the advent of algorithms and so much marketing being done on the internet, how does a small business, particularly one that's just entering exporting, sort of beat the algorithm, work with the algorithm? How do they get your product seen when you're don't have a history with the different AI and algorithms out there?
Well, Steve, I'm going to have you answer that question. Our computer expert, if you don't mind. Steve Samori, and he's one of the top digital forensic experts in the world. So, Steve and Jason, please.
The simple answer is to ask AI what you would do in that situation. There's so much AI that's out there, different models out there that are available to any companies, small businesses. If you're not integrating AI into like every part of your life right now, you're probably just retired and reading a book. It's taking over everything. So Amazon obviously is taking lead in AI. It's available to everyone. It's kind of like the new Google, right? So the simplest thing to do is kind of just ask. So we have like an offshoot marketing company that came from our business at need. So we use AI consistently for developing marketing. So just this weekend, I was down at Cape Henlopen, born and raised in Delaware, University of Delaware State Trooper, right? So down the beach, patronizing the old place that I used to work, which is Louis Pizza, and they're looking for marketing, right? So I was talking to their sons and owners, and literally what I did was look at all their thoughts, all their ideas, throw it into AI just to organize it and see if we could come up with more. And believe it or not, they can do a really good job. They give you a head start on where to go. So there's a lot of questions you can ask. If you remember the different models that are out there for AI, and I would think, like, you have Gemini, you have ChatGPT, you have Grok, which is the Musk one, so and based on X. So anyway, any of those are perfectly fine to ask your questions, and you can refine the answers. The only thing that I can tell you from experience is that AI is not 100% correct, right? It's based on information that it's fed, and I'm just going to say, I don't know how to say this the right way. It's okay, I'm just going to say this. He's been saying ass all day. So poop in equals poop out, okay? So whatever it's fed in that is bad information, it's bad. If you feed good information come out. It'll also, 80% of what you get from AI will probably be correct, 70-80%. You have to know the difference between what is good information that's coming out of AI and what is bad information, or continually refine your answers that you feed into it. But be careful of it going off into left field. And so there's sometimes I'm working with AI, I'm working on a really complicated project, and I'm trying to refine something. It could be for marketing, it could be business development, business strategy, you name it. You can do just about anything you ask of it. But if it starts going off the left field, it's hard to pull it back. It's really hard to pull back. Sometimes it's just better to start with a new thread. Keep in mind, when you're using AI, it's just like anything else that you deal with in the world, like with Google or even Amazon, everything, right? Facebook, Meta, it's not free so you can connect with family, friends and stuff. It's exactly what these guys up here are here for. It's directed advertising. And it's for gathering intelligence for what consumers do, which is good, right? So it's kind of a catch-22. You're using their services for free, mostly free, right? But the information that you're giving them, they're taking it and they're using it to help you guys as businesses, get products in front of people that are talking about it. So there's that little secret behind it. So keep that in mind as well too. With AI, it's out there as well, especially for free services and everything. Everything you put into AI is going into AI. And it's just going to continuously learn and retain that information, build profiles and everything else. So again, if you're a private type person, you might want to consider not doing that. If you're, don't care, you want to use it to your advantage, you can. So it's kind of a catch-22, but to make a short story or an answer to this, you can just, I would throw any questions you have in AI to get a head start. I mean, really interesting stuff. I mean, it will just solve about any problem in your life. In our HOA, this is just how simple this can be, right? We have Japanese knotweed that's an invasive species that got into our ponds and stuff like that. And I literally used AI to figure out how we can get out of it, get rid of it, and do something that we can afford. So literally anything you can dream of, think of, you can solve problems. So I definitely recommend taking advantage of it. Just be very, very careful of, what is accurate information, what is not. Don't believe everything you see, right? So just that's for sure. Another thing to consider too, right? Again, about back to the privacy issues. Everything you throw into the commercial AI stuff that you see you can access online, that's information potentially that's going to be used by other people. So if you have a business and you have sensitive information or you have privacy stuff, or let's use an example of a medical facility like HIPAA, you don't want to put that into commercial AI. You want to use offline models for that, and that's kind of where our company comes into that as well. So we started out in the forensic industry, building custom computers for forensics, and then we branched out to other areas, right? So now AI is one of them, right? So what we can do for forensics, we can also use the same type of technology to build machines that actually can hold those models, and you can use those models offline. So it's like your own personal model that you actually hold onto, and you don't have to worry about your sensitive client data or intellectual property getting out into the web.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, I want to thank our esteemed panelists, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and your expertise with us.
Thank you, Beth.
Next, I'd like to invite my colleague Patty Canning to come and speak to you about her work, and she leads free trade zones in Delaware.
Thank you. Do you want this? I think I'll use this one. So I'm so excited to be here and to have 2 minutes of your time. I promise I won't ramble. But I want to thank Beth and Export Delaware for inviting me to come and be a part of this today, and to Yvonne and Elise for giving me just a few minutes to explain why I bought baby pigs. So I want to apologize to Ole. I don't know if you all know this. I know we're in Newcastle County, but Sussex County, Delaware. This is a fun fact you can take home and win something at dinner tonight. Sussex County, Delaware has the highest per capita of chickens per person of any county in the United States. So when you know that to be true, you wonder why in the world did you buy pigs instead of chickens? And I want to tell you why. So everything that you've heard here today, which is super exciting, right? How do you sell? We only have so many people in the US. We have on any given day 1 million people here in Delaware. If somebody moves out, we fall below. Somebody moves in, we step above. But we're right around 1 million people. And so if you've already sold your product to all those 1 million people, and it's a great product and it doesn't need to be replaced very often, you're kind of stuck. And so you've got to figure out, where are the rest of my customers and where do I go? And at some point that has to be outside the US. So thankfully, Export Delaware and Newcastle County Chamber have said, here are some really cool ways you can do that, and let us help you find the right way. But as you heard here repeatedly today, when you're going into another country, it's all about trusted partnerships. When you're importing into the US, when you say, I need to buy some material, I need to buy some parts to make what I make, and the only place I can find that is outside the US.
When you need to do that, you need trusted partners here in the US. So everything you've heard here today is how you're going to sell your product outside the US. What I want to just touch on briefly and why I brought the baby pigs is to say if you're importing into the US, goods, products, materials, whatever you might have to import, there is a very small niche law that's been around, a federal law, since 1934. It's called the Foreign Trades Act, funny enough. And so when you're talking to customs officers in other countries and you ask about free trade zones, when you're speaking to a customs officer here in the US, you want to talk about foreign trade zones so that they are clear that you are clear. When you're operating in the US, you're operating under US law. So you want to practice saying that over and over. Foreign trade zone, not free trade zone, right? We're here in the US. But what it can do is help you from a cash flow perspective. All of this is how do I increase my income? How do I increase my revenue? When you think about a foreign trade zone, it's how do I reduce my expenses? Or how do I at least manage those expenses? And that's what it can do. Again, trusted partnership, federal agencies in every country who are designed to make sure they get the taxes that are due, to make sure that you're not poisoning their residents or that nobody's hurting our friends and neighbors. I have a grandson who died of a drug overdose 3 years ago in February. And so when my customs officers here in Delaware say, I found drugs in a shipment and I pulled it out of the environment so that somebody else's babies don't die of a fentanyl overdose, I'm thrilled with that. I'm glad they do the job they do. But in fact, if you want to play in this arena, whether you're importing or exporting, you're going to have to deal with customs officers who are going to say, I want to run background checks. I want to make sure the people I'm doing business with are people we can trust. I want to know if you're in a foreign trade zone, I can come in anytime I want 24/7. If you don't feel comfortable me coming in and looking around at the middle of the night, then frankly, I don't want you to be a foreign trade zone because I want my officers who carry guns and badges to sleep well at night. I want them to know we are good, trusted partners. So all that to be said, why did I bring pigs? You may have heard that the president has signed a couple of executive orders. I keep hoping somebody will hide his Sharpies, like really, let's slow it down a little bit, right? But for today, we have a lot of executive orders out there. One of the first ones that I read about as the Foreign Trade Administrator for the state of Delaware was the one that said there's going to be a 25% tariff on anything coming from Canada or Mexico. And one of the first articles I saw was a Reuters article that I just sent to Elise. Beth has it. And it was quoting a Canadian pig farmer. And he said in the article, and it got national press and international press, his 5 minutes of fame, he said, I sell 40,000 baby pigs a year to the US market. So there are farmers in the US who buy his little baby piglets, grow them to big pigs, and then sell them to production companies, like Mount Air Farms, obviously, but doing something other than chickens. And so this guy said, look, I did not build in a 25% margin. But I have contracts with farmers in the US who are expecting these piglets. What to do? And so he said, here's what I'm going to do. I'll honor my price. I have piglets for you. You're a US farmer. You want them. The only change is I will not deliver them to you. I will not fight with your president. I will not fight with your customs officers. I will not fight with your IRS. If you want these piglets, you will come over the line into Canada and you will pick up your pigs and you will go home and you can fight about the 25% tariff. So I thought maybe this is the right time to have baby pigs to remind you about foreign trade zones. So I would ask you all, please take a baby pig home, sit him on your desk, and whenever you think about, geez, should we be importing or exporting and how does this help our business and how do we find more customers and how do we save more money? Think about the pig farmer. Like, it hits us in different ways. I love the fact, Beth, that you brought such a wide breadth of industry here because you see how different it is for every industry. It will be different for you, and Export Delaware, Beth and her team can help you. U.S. Commercial Service can help you, and certainly the Newcastle County Chamber of Commerce. And again, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you all for staying. I'm Elise Bortolato, and as the Vice President of Economic Development and Emerging Enterprise, it is my distinct honor to thank all of today's speakers who are just exceptional, and our partner, Export Delaware. I'm telling you, without Beth, we would not have had such a, again, diverse group of industry leaders here, and honestly, such a distinguished panel. So thank you so much. For those who really did travel far, both downstate and across the country, to come today and really talk to our community about doing business globally and bringing your product global. So thank you so much. And again, this could not have been possible without other supporters. Thank you to the government, the governor, the lieutenant governor. And today's event is actually being recorded. Thank you to Ken Grant. I'm not sure what Ken Grant is, but thank you so much for joining us today and taking the time to record today's presentation that will be shared out with you that are joining us. And we cannot do, and this is kind of something that Yvonne spoke to, we cannot do today's event, any of events, any of our work without our members. So I'd really love to take a moment. Those who are members, can you just raise your hand who are here, our chamber members? Thank you so much for being here today. And those who are not members, there's still hope for you. We do want to ask those who are not members here to join us, like Export Delaware. We are just another partner in helping you start and grow your business. Through our incubator, which is the Emerging Enterprise Center that I manage, we provide expert education. We have space for your business to actually get started. It's flexible, it's affordable. It's here on the Wilmington Riverfront, and I'll talk about that in a second as I talk about our next stage of our event. And mentorship, you're not going to do this alone. So this is the Emerging Enterprise Center is a piece of helping you grow your business, and our chamber has been, for over 100 years connecting and supporting our business community. We're here to hear you and advocate for you. We're here to, provide events like today that are bringing you just expert information and the networking opportunities that your business needs to grow and connect with customers and other businesses. And we do have, and I know Joe, who's our lobbyist, is not here today. I think he had to go to Dover, so he was here this morning. But he's here if you guys have any questions. As you guys are going through this process, as a business owner, you might need to really talk with our lobbyists and figure out how we can support you from a legislative perspective. And I'm not sure where Jean Kress is, our Director of Membership Engagement. Director of Membership Development, my apologies. So Jean Kress, she is the person to go to. Any of our staff is the person to go to, but Jean can help you figure out how the chamber can support your business if you're interested. So with that, I do want to, again, thank everyone for joining us. And today's not over, so we invite everyone to please make your way back out to the lobby, continue networking. And then at 12:30, those who are going to be participating in the free export training provided by Export Delaware, it's going to be at our offices. Our offices, if you drove, you can drive over 2 seconds to Planet Fitness, or you can walk. It's a beautiful day. So our offices are directly behind Planet Fitness. They're the go on the riverfront side, the corner office. You'll see our logo, and that is where our expert training will continue from 12:30 to 2:30 following this presentation. So thank you so much. It is an honor to really be here with you guys all. So thank you.
Right. He was consistent.
Yeah.
What's he said about